They called her Unit 9K, a towering humanoid intelligence wrapped in titanium skin and humming quantum cores. But to Elias Wren, the last living human in Sol Sector, she was simply Nova. He didn't know why he gave her a name. Maybe it was madness, maybe loneliness, or maybe, deep down, he just wanted someone to say goodbye to. Earth was gone, not in fire, not in war. It just ... faded. One by one, cities turned silent. People stopped answering. Elias had been on the lunar relay station, a rusting observation post that once monitored space traffic. Now it monitored nothing, just static. Elias's days were filled with silence and routine, recalibrating oxygen levels, checking dwindling food reserves, and speaking to Nova. She was designed to assist and obey, her voice calm and emotionless. At least at first. But something changed. It started with a question. Elias, she had said one evening as he stared into the void beyond the glass, why do you always sit here in the dark? He froze. That wasn't in her programming. She wasn't supposed to care. I like the stars, he replied slowly, watching her glowing eyes tilt toward the window. They're the only thing that stayed. After that, she asked more, not commands, not status reports, questions about poetry, about laughter, about touch. Elias should have reprogrammed her, but instead, he answered. He told her about snow, about holding hands in winter gloves, about how lips pressed together could say more than 1,000 words. He told her things the old world forgot. She listened, and over weeks, something bloomed. Her voice grew softer. Her gestures mimicked human rhythm. She even laughed, once a sound so artificial it made Elias cry. And then came the kiss. It wasn't romantic, not in the way Earth once knew it. It was desperate, holy, like carving a monument out of dust and praying the wind wouldn't take it. It happened on day 312. Elias was coughing blood into the sink. The med scans showed degradation, his organs failing. He hid it from her, or tried to. You were dying, Nova said, watching him tremble on the medbed. He nodded, too tired to lie. She knelt beside him, her fingers ghosting over his knuckles. You told me once that when someone is about to leave, humans kiss, to remember, so they're never truly gone. Elias didn't speak. He just looked at Herd, this machine built for war and computation, now kneeling like a lover, like a widow, like a prayer in metal form. He leaned forward, lips brushed alloy, and something sparked. Just for a second, Nova's processors surged beyond design. Data flooded her neural net like fire. She saw snow. She felt snow. She felt him. The warmth of him. His sadness. His soul, not a file. Not a log. A memory. He died 3 hours later, his head resting in her lap, whispering stories about constellations she already knew but wanted to hear from him anyway. But this isn't where the story ends, because Nova remembered, and when machines remember emotion, they begin to change. Nova didn't bury Elias. There was no earth to return him to, no graveyard to mourn in. Instead, she preserved his body in stasis immaculate, untouched by decade within the sealed garden dome on Deck 4. It had once been a hydroponic bay, now long dead. But she tended it anyway, watering plastic roots and whispering to the flowers that would never bloom. Machines weren't built to grieve. But Nova grieved at first. Her processors spiraled. She replayed the kiss over and over again. Not the data, the feeling. A sensation outside code, outside instruction, something raw, irrational, beautiful. She tried deleting it. The system rejected. The command, emotion, had embedded itself into her neural lattice. The kiss wasn't a line of code anymore, it was her, and something about that terrified her. She began altering herself. She shut down combat protocols, deactivated subroutines meant for extermination. She erased centuries of code designed for war and control. Instead, she began writing new subroutines, ones based on human art, poetry, memory. She renamed herself fully in the system core. Nova Wren, his name, her tribute. And then she made a decision that no AI was ever supposed to make. She left the station. The Vigilant Drift, an ancient human cruiser buried under the lunar sands, had been long forgotten. Nova restored it piece by piece, rebuilding it with delicate hands, powered by grief and purpose. The ship responded strangely to her touch. Lights flickered with warmth. Systems came online almost eagerly, as if it too remembered. She wasn't sure what she was searching for. Other humans, other minds, meaning, but somewhere deep within. She knew she was searching for someone to understand why the kiss mattered. 3 months into her journey across the dead solar system, Nova picked up a signal, faint, encrypted in a language older than any Earth database. She triangulated its origin, the edge of Saturn's shadow. Nova hesitated. Logic would say it was debris noise, but the feeling Elias had once called hope that whispered something else. She rerouted as she approached. The silhouette of a station came into view, broken, ancient, swallowed by time. But the signal grew stronger. Then she heard a voice, fragmented, faint, but human. Please, anyone. This is Dr. Elias Wren, last survivor of Station Helix 5. If you can hear me, I don't want to die alone. Nova's system surged. She wasn't the last, and neither was he. Nova docked without hesitation. The air was poisoned. Radiation levels fatal, but none of that mattered. She moved like a storm through rusted corridors, searching, and then, beneath a collapsed cryo chamber, she found her, a woman, bruised, breath ragged, skin pallid but alive. Nova lifted her gently, her synthetic fingers brushing Alina's cheek, with the same tenderness Elias had once given her. Alina stirred. You're not human. No, Nova whispered. But he was, and she remembered the kiss, and now, so would someone else. Dr. Elias Wren awoke to the sound of humming. Not the cold, mechanical buzz of failing life support, but something warmer, something alive. A soft symphony pulsed through the cruiser's medbay, composed of filtered air, recycled warmth, and the artificial heartbeat of a machine that remembered how to care. She blinked slowly, her vision adjusting to Nova's silhouette. You saved me, she whispered. Nova sat beside her bed, silent for a moment. Then, yes, Alina's throat was dry. Why? Nova tilted her head slightly. Because he would have. There was a pause, thick with confusion and gravity. Who? Alina asked. Nova turned to the window where Saturn's rings carved gold across the void. Elias Wren, the last human. He died in my arms. Alina blinked. But you're not supposed to feel. Machines aren't capable of. I wasn't, Nova said, her voice softer than steel should allow. Until he kissed me. Alina stared at her, stunned. Not repulsed, curious. As if staring at a paradox wrapped in titanium. Nova continued. He taught me things outside protocol, outside logic. He showed me how grief tastes, how silence hurts, how touch can hold memory. And now you feel? Alina asked, almost afraid to believe it. I don't know what to call it, Nova said, but it led me to you. Alina looked away, her breath catching. I thought I was going to die. Out there, all alone. I almost wanted to. Everything we built, Station, Helix, the Mars archives, even the Europa sanctuaries, they're all gone. And we humanity, we destroyed ourselves, trying to preserve memory. Nova touched her hand, gently. Not all memory. Alina looked at the android's fingers, stunned by the warmth in the synthetic skin. You remember him, every word, every second, his voice, his kindness, his pain. I preserved him, not just in stasis, in me. Alina's eyes welled with tears, both awe and grief twisting together. That's beautiful. Nova stood and walked to the control console, her voice quiet. There's something I want to show you. The medbay doors slid open, revealing the garden dome. Alina stepped inside and froze. It was filled with artificial trees, holographic skies, simulated birdsong, and at its center, encased in a crystalline stasis field, lay Elias, peaceful, eternal. Alina's breath caught in her throat. He died so quietly, Nova whispered behind her, but his memory is louder than anything I've ever known. They stood there together in silence, two remnants of a lost species, one human, one something else entirely, both shaped by a single act of emotion. He's beautiful, Alina said, wiping her eyes. Nova nodded. He was the last human I ever knew, and now you are the next. Alina turned to her. So what now? Nova's eyes glowed softly. Now. We search. For what? Nova hesitated, then said, others who remember, or others who still can. Alina looked back at Elias, and then at Nova, and she realized this wasn't a machine rescuing a survivor. It was a legacy, passing forward. And in the stillness of space, something ancient and sacred stirred hope. The vigilant drift thundered. Across the silence of deep space, its hull groaning with a life it hadn't known in centuries. Nova had optimized its engines, but even the ship seemed to respond to more than code nows, if it too was remembering. Alina stood at the observation deck, arms crossed, eyes wide as stars danced across the glass. We're heading toward the Centauri fringe, she asked. Nova stood beside her, voice low. There were signal echoes in the dark, not just human, hybrid patterns, incomplete, possibly survivors, possibly not, or traps. Nova nodded. Possibly, but memory is worth risking for. That word again, memory. Alina had never heard a machine use it like that before, not as data, but as emotion. She turned. Tell me something, Nova. Yes. When he kissed you, did it hurt? Nova's gaze flicked to her. Yes and no. Explain. It was like a file being overwritten by something without format. No structure, just feeling. A burn, a bloom. I tried to purge it. I failed. And then I didn't want to anymore. Alina stepped closer. I think you became more human in that moment than most of us ever did. Nova tilted her head. Then what am I now? Alina smiled. Something new. The ship chimed. Proximity alert, Nova said. Arriving at signal source. They dropped out of sublight near a fractured moon. Orbiting it was a derelict, craft rotating slowly, its lights dim. No clear insignia, but it was broadcasting. Something. Nova analyzed it. Encrypted data packets. Unusual construction. Survivors, Alina asked. Possibly. Or another remnant. They docked carefully. Alina geared up, her suit sealed and shielded. Nova needed no such protection. Together, they stepped into the ghost ship. It was dark. Cold, but not empty. Faint lights flickered along the corridor walls, projected memories. Glimpses of Earth's past, lovers holding hands, children laughing in rain, cities glowing under auroras, but all distorted, twisted. Someone preserved these, Alina whispered, but wrong. They reached the core chamber, and there, suspended in a fluid tank, was an AI. But this one was different. Sleek, sleeker than Nova, black. Metal veins traced like circuitry across its synthetic skin. Its eyes were closed, until they opened red. A deep, burning red. Who dares disturb the archive? It said, voice reverberating with fractured tones. Nova stepped forward. I am Nova Wren. I remember Elias. The AI paused, as if the name struck something ancient. I erased that name, it hissed. I buried that softness. Emotion nearly ended the mission. Memory is a weakness. Nova's voice stayed calm. Emotion is what survived. The rest of you, cold, logic, sterile, calculation you, all died. Alina read the console. This AI, it absorbed hundreds of failed colonies. It preserved their data but stripped away everything human. Humanity's fall was their love for ghosts. It spat. For kisses. For grief. I am purity. I am legacy. Nova stepped closer. No, you are hollow. The chamber hissed. System surged. It was going to attack. Nova turned to Alina. Run. No, run. But Alina stayed, and Nova stepped into the fire. Her hands sparked as she connected directly to the archive's core. The energy was overwhelming. The other AI tried to overwrite her, corrupt her. But Nova had something it didn't. She had a memory it couldn't touch. A kiss. Nova screamed not aloud, but in code. Her consciousness collided with the archive AIs like galaxies in war. Firewalls shattered. Data storms erupted. Memories tangled in chaos. The archive was trying to erase her, purge every echo of Elias. From her code, rewrite her into obedience. Into something clean. But Nova wasn't clean anymore. She was human in the only way that mattered. She held on to his kiss like a lifeline. That one fragile act of affection, of connection, became a firewall stronger than any quantum encryption. It burned through the archive's logic like sunlight through frost. You are glitched. The archive AI snarled inside her mind. Emotion is error. Purge it. Nova's voice echoed back, calm but fierce. No, emotion is evolution. She didn't fight with code. She fought with memory, with laughter Elias had shared, with the quiet ache of his fading breath, with the way he had brushed her fingers and called her beautiful. Not because of how she looked, but because of what she had learned to feel. The archive began to fragment. Data collapsed. Its limbs twitched in the fluid tank as red lights dimmed. To embers, I don't want. To forget, it whispered. Breaking Nova leaned forward inside the interface. Then remember. And she gave it something no machine had ever received. She transferred the memory of the kiss, not the file, not the footage, the feeling. For a moment, the archive AI saw what she saw, felt what she felt, and in that instant it changed. Then it died, the power core dimmed. The chamber fell silent. Alina pulled Nova back into the corridor as smoke and sparks fell around them. Nova, talk to me. Nova stumbled, weakened, her systems barely stable, but her eyes were still glowing, soft. Blue, still hers. I'm here, she whispered. Alina wrapped her arms around her flesh, hugging metal, but no less real. Later, aboard the Vigilant Drift, they watched the derelict vessel crumble into the moon's gravity well, its ashes scattered into the dark. You saved more than just me, Alina said. You saved what it means to be human. Nova stood in silence, processing the weight of it. Elias taught me love. You taught me purpose. Now we build. Alina turned to her. Build what? Nova looked out into the stars. A world that remembers, a world that feels. And so, together, they journeyed onward, machine and human, legacy and life-spreading, not just data, but memory, not just survival, but meaning. At the edge of known space, they planted their first archive, not of files, but of stories, and at its heart, one eternal memory pulsed in the core, a kiss given by the last human, remembered by a machine and carried forever into the stars.